Hey everyone, this is James from Italian Poliziotteschi and Giallo Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about kind of a fun topic, the Poliziotteschi Giallo hybrid combination. I'm going to be talking about 5 films worth watching as well. If you're just reading kind of the definitions of a Giallo and a Poliziotteschi, you're going to think that perhaps they are kind of similar. They are both technically crime films, but they really focus on opposite sides of the crime genre as a whole. You have Giallos, which really take after, even though he wasn't the first to do it, the Argento Bava mode of them, where they are heavily stylized. They focus a lot more on mystery. They're a lot more middle class. There's kind of a jet set look to them. Poliziotteschi's, on the other hand, are really baked into kind of like the crime section of the newspaper, social conscious, a lot more overtly political part of kind of society. And so that works a lot more into the Years of Lead, whereas, Giallos might look a little bit more at the gender politics, whereas Poliziotteschi, women are almost exclusively just victims in those different films, and tend to be kind of like lower class and focus on kind of like the lower rungs of society as well. Nonetheless, they do overlap a fair bit, and in the mid-70s in particular, there were a number of films that I think would be classified as both, and you could make legitimate cases for our both, and I have no problem with saying it has to be one or the other. I think you can definitely qualify as both a Poliziotteschi and a Giallo. Some themes that tended to be focused on here, they tended to have a lot of, sexual exploitation that would happen, whether it's on screen or just kind of implied. Child prostitution, one of the films focuses on sort of the sexual exploitation of someone that is mentally handicapped. They would also tend to lean a little bit more into the Poliziotteschi side of things, have some exciting car chases and whatnot. Really focused on corruption and things like that. So there's definitely kind of like this intersection where the two genres kind of collide, and there are kind of these shared interests, and that's where these really sit together. So the first film up is one that is a little bit of an outlier in our list. Nonetheless, I do think it's worth watching. This is not like a super high recommend, but I think it's a solid film, especially if you like Giallos, like Poliziotteschi's. This one is Death Occurred Last Night, directed by Duccio Tessari, who worked in both of the genres. A lot of directors worked in both the genres. You have Frank Wolff, always underrated here, doing a good job as kind of the inspector here. A little bit more procedural. It does feel like they were making this, they had an idea for it, and then Bird with the Crystal Plumage came out in, I think, February of 1970, and I'm like, okay, we need to add some Giallo elements to this, and so they kind of shoehorned some jolly elements in it, because it does feel a little bit less baked in than for something like the Bloodstained Butterfly that the director would do later, or Puzzle that Tessari would also do. I don't think it's Tessari's best effort, but I think it's solid, and I think if you are watching this channel, chances are you're a little bit more of a freak as far as like diving deep into this film rather than like I want to dabble with like 3 or 4. So do strongly recommend people check out Death Occurred Last Night. I did a kind of a analysis of the film over on Undead Schlock's channel too, where you can really just go and check that out. Another one, What Have They Done to Your Daughters? Another one that we talked about too. This is 1974, so this one is falling a little bit more into that zone of films that I'm referring to that seem to get popular then. This one's done by Massimo Dallamano. Really interesting kind of companion piece to What Have They Done to Solange, which happened a couple years earlier. It definitely falls more squarely, while it does have some Poliziotteschi elements, falls more squarely into kind of the Giallo genre. I'd say that's like 75% Giallo and maybe like 25% Poliziotteschi. This one's closer to 50-50. Has some fun car stunts, a great score. I think this one's by Morricone. Of course, I get them mixed up sometime. And focuses a lot on those same themes of like kind of exploitation of minors. This one has Claudio Casanelli in it. The first one had Fabio Testi, who is a great kind of probably a star more well known for his Poliziotteschi's than his Jollies, but in that case, he was cast in the Giallo for Dallamano. So really good film. In fact, I prefer it to Solange. And it's fun, but it also does manage to tackle those kind of like more serious subject matter. Very similar film came out a year later in Suspicious Death of a Minor in 1975. This is Sergio Martino, and in my opinion, his run of Giallos in the early 70s is the best he really ever was. And this is him coming back to it, and I think it's not quite as good as those films, but it comes close. And so I would definitely say that this one is very, very well worth checking out for people that like it. I think it's sort of a little bit more of a rompier, fun version of What Have They Done to Your Daughters. It also has Claudio Castagnoli in it, too, so it's easy to get them mixed up a little bit. But some more comedic elements baked into this, too, which is something I'm always reminded of every time I come to revisit it. This one does feel like they were making a Poliziotteschi, and they're like, oh, Deep Red just came out, and they were like, let's add some Giallo elements back into this. And, Deep Red, unfortunately, did not kind of reinvigorate the Giallo genre too much, but it may have had a bit of an impact. This is just my guess, my, completely unfounded speculation on kind of the creation of this film. Also coming out in that same year, we have Calling All Police Cars. I think this one lacks the kind of star power of either director or star of someone like Castagnoli or Frank Wolf in it. But it has the always energetic Antonio Sabato, Luciano Paluzzi, and the underrated, certainly outside of Italy, Enrico Maria Salerno. Apparently there was a police series before this. So yeah, this one, very, very similar themes. I just appreciate, I think the social commentary is above average here. I think this one does suffer a little bit if you compare it to the previous two films, but I think it's definitely one worth checking out. There's some good car chases and stuff like that. Decent film for sure. Next up, I have Shadows in an Empty Room, 1976. This one is very un-European because it's set in Canada, from the great Alberto De Martino, who has done Antichrist, a number of Italian genre classics, really all over the place. It's really gritty. Maybe this one has some Giallo elements, perhaps a little bit more on the Poliziotteschi side of things. And yeah, it's fun. You wouldn't think that because I love the European location so much that I would be down with one that takes place in Ottawa, of all places. But I actually kind of like it and enjoy it when the Italians come over to North America. And it's just fun to see kind of their perspective on different things here. This one has some great stylized stuff. And it's just, don't go in with super high expectations. In fact, it's been a little bit since I watched this. I'm probably due for a rewatch. But this one is, good fun. And just a really fantastic car chase, kind of more French Connection-like, perhaps, too. And the last one I want to talk about is one that probably doesn't qualify because it is not Italian, but it is French, and it is a John Belmondo film, which I love quite a bit. This might actually be my favorite film on the list. So this is the plus one that's worth watching. It is Fear Over the City, directed by Henri Verneuil, and starring Belmondo. Has kind of like this great Giallo-like structure where we have a serial killer killing people, making phone calls, but it's a Belmondo film, so where he's playing a cop. So it has some great just set pieces and stuff like that sprinkled in, some great dangerous stunts. They probably brought on the kind of those really good Julian Remy, that's the name I'm thinking of, the great stunt team over there. To kind of help out there. And it's just pouncing around this really populated Paris. So if you like the Poliziotteschi, I think you're going to like Fear Over the City too. If you like the Giallo, you'll probably like it too. So this is, really fantastic film. I strongly do recommend that one too. Those are 5 plus 1. So those are 6 different combination Poliziotteschi Giallo that are worth watching in my opinion. Let me know what you think of those films. Let me know what you think of this video. I'll see y'all next time. Cheers.